Your grandmother's estate is worth approximately $12 million, and we all know Eliza shouldn't get a penny since she's not even real family. My sister-in-law, Margaret, announced before the lawyer had even opened his briefcase. The same woman who'd convinced my husband that visiting his grandmother was too depressing now sat at the polished mahogany table calculating her shopping budget, while I held the worn poetry book Grandma Rose had pressed into my hands just 3 days before she died. Why had she whispered, "Wait for the video, dear? They'll show their true colors, and then you'll understand everything," with such a knowing smile? Attorney Harrison Blackford adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, studying the room with the patience of someone who'd overseen countless family implosions. Besides Margaret and her grabby hands, the conference room held my husband Thomas, his brother James, their parents Richard and Patricia, and me, the outsider who'd married 8 years ago. "Perhaps we should begin with," Mr. Blackford started. "With the reading," Richard interrupted, his voice booming with the authority of a man who'd bullied his way through life. "We don't have all day. Some of us have real jobs to get back to." Real jobs. Unlike me, the pediatric nurse who'd spent every Saturday afternoon for the past 5 years reading to Grandma Rose while they played golf. "Of course," Mr. Blackford said mildly, opening a leather folder. "However, there are some preliminaries we must address. First, I need to verify attendance. Is everyone listed in the will present?" "Who else would there be?" Patricia scoffed, examining her manicure. "Mother only had 2 sons, both married. We're all here." Actually, the lawyer consulted his notes. "There's a nurse, Catherine Mills." "The hospice nurse?" James laughed. "Grandma left something to hired help." "How quaint." "And a Dr. Samuel Peterson." "Her doctor?" Margaret's voice pitched higher. "This is ridiculous. How much could she have left them?" $1,000 each. Just send them checks, and let's get to the real inheritance." Thomas squeezed my hand under the table, not in comfort, but in warning. "Keep quiet," the pressure said. "Don't make waves." The same message he'd been sending since we'd arrived, and his family had pointedly ignored my greeting. "Before we proceed," Mr. Blackford continued, "I'm legally obligated to ask. Has anyone in this room attempted to access Rose Whitman's accounts or properties since her passing?" Silence. Then Patricia cleared her throat. "Well, someone had to start preparing the house for sale. I may have begun organizing." "You mean you ransacked her jewelry box?" I said quietly, speaking for the first time. Every head swiveled toward me. Thomas's grip tightened painfully. "Excuse me." Patricia's voice could have frozen hell. "Tuesday afternoon. You were there with the appraiser. I saw you when I came to water Grandma's orchids." I met her stare steadily. "The Cartier watch she always wore is missing." "How dare you accuse me of?" "I'm not accusing," I said calmly. "I'm stating facts. The security system recorded your entry at 2:17 p.m. You left with 2 bags at 3:45 p.m. Richard's face purpled. "You had no right to check the security system." "Actually," Mr. Blackford interjected, "Mrs. Whitman specifically requested that Eliza maintain access to monitor the property. Now, shall we proceed with the reading?" Finally, Margaret muttered, "Though I don't know why she's even here." She gestured at me. "It's not like Mother Whitman ever accepted her. Eliza didn't even call her grandma until last year." That was true. For 7 years, I'd called her Mrs. Whitman, respecting the distance the family maintained. Until the day she'd grabbed my hand and said, "8 years is long enough, dear. Call me Grandma." Lord knows no one else in this family remembers I exist. "The last will and testament of Rose Marie Whitman," Mr. Blackford began, "executed 6 months ago, superseding all previous versions." 6 months? Thomas sat forward. "Her will was updated 6 months ago." "Correct." Mrs. Whitman was quite specific about the timing. "Now to the bequests. To my son Richard, I leave the sum of $1,000. the exact amount he claimed was too much to spend visiting me last Christmas. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. To my son James, I leave my collection of vintage golf clubs, since he preferred spending time on the course rather than with his dying mother. This is insulting. James slammed his hand on the table. To my daughter-in-law Patricia, I leave the costume jewelry from my dresser, since she could never tell the difference between real and fake anyway, as proven by her marriage. I bit my lip to suppress a laugh. Grandma Rose had always been sharp, but I hadn't expected her to be this savage from beyond the grave. To my daughter-in-law Margaret, I leave my set of etiquette books, in hopes she might learn that loudly calculating someone's net worth at their funeral is considered gauche. Margaret's face flushed scarlet. She had done exactly that, standing at the graveside estimating the value of Grandma's estate. To my grandson Thomas, I leave my disappointment in the hope that someday he'll grow a spine. Thomas released my hand as if it burned. What? Mr. Blackford continued reading. You married a wonderful woman, and then let your family treat her like an interloper for 8 years. You canceled visits to see me because your mother deemed them inconvenient. You stood silent while your family mocked your wife's dedication to her career. For this cowardice, you receive what you gave me, nothing of substance. The room erupted. This is elder abuse. Patricia shrieked. She wasn't in her right mind. Someone influenced her. Richard pointed at me. It was her. The gold digger nurse. I want this contested immediately, Margaret demanded. Mr. Blackford raised his hand. Please, we're not finished. There's a video component to the will. He pulled out a laptop, and suddenly Grandma Rose appeared on screen, sitting in her favorite wingback chair, looking directly at the camera with those sharp blue eyes I'd grown to love. Hello, vultures, she began, and James choked on air. If you're watching this, it means you've just discovered that your assumptions about my estate were wildly incorrect. Let me be clear. I was of sound mind when I made this will. Dr. Peterson verified it, as did a psychiatric evaluation I underwent specifically to prevent any contestation. I have copies of every dismissive email, every canceled visit, every excuse you made to avoid spending time with me in my final years. The Grandma Rose on screen smiled, and it wasn't kind. Richard, you visited me exactly 3 times in 5 years. Once to ask for a loan for James's failed restaurant. Once to try to convince me to sign a power of attorney. And once when you thought I was sleeping to photograph my financial documents. Yes, I was awake. Richard's purple face had gone pale. James, you son. You couldn't be bothered to drive 20 minutes to see me. But you had plenty of time to research my property values online. I know about the real estate agent you brought to visit me. She thought I was senile when I pretended not to remember her name. I remembered. I just enjoyed watching her try to assess my house while pretending to care about my health. Turn it off, James said weakly. Patricia and Margaret, you harpies couldn't even pretend to care. The only time you showed interest was when you thought I was too medicated to notice you rifling through my things. Surprise. I was documenting everything for my lawyer. On screen, Grandma Rose held up a notebook. Every visit, every theft, every cruel comment you made about Eliza when you thought I was napping. Which brings me to the only family member who treated me like a human being rather than a bank account. The room fell silent except for the video. Eliza came every Saturday, not because anyone asked her to. In fact, you all mocked her for it. She came because she cared. She read to me, brought me tea, listened to my stories about the old days. She helped me tend my orchids and never once asked about inheritance. When I was in pain, she used her nursing skills to help me be comfortable. When I was lonely, she stayed late just to chat. Grandma looked directly at the camera, as if seeing through time. Eliza, dear, they'll tell you I was manipulated. They'll say you influenced me. Let me be crystal clear. The only influence you had was showing me what family should really look like. You loved me when there was nothing to gain. You visited when it was inconvenient. You saw me as Rose, not as a wallet. Therefore, Mr. Blackford's voice picked up where the video paused. The remainder of the estate, including all properties, investments, and liquid assets totaling approximately $12 million, is left to Eliza Whitman, whom I consider my true granddaughter. The explosion was immediate and predictable. "I'll sue," Richard roared. "This is fraud," Patricia screeched. "You manipulative bitch." Margaret lunged across the table at me, only stopped by Mr. Blackford's security stepping forward. Thomas sat frozen, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. "There's more to the video," Mr. Blackford said calmly, pressing play. Grandma Rose reappeared. "I know you'll contest this. That's why I've included a provision. Any family member who challenges this will receive nothing, not even the token amounts I've left. Furthermore, I've documented extensive evidence of financial elder abuse. Patricia, that includes the Cartier watch you took last month when you thought I was sleeping. It was insured for $40,000. That's grand theft." Patricia's face went white. "I've instructed Mr. Blackford to pursue criminal charges if anyone contests. I have video evidence, documentation, and witness statements from my healthcare providers about your behavior." The room had gone tomb silent. "Eliza," Grandma's voice softened, "use this gift wisely. I know you will. And remember what I told you. Sometimes the family we choose is more real than the family we're born into. You chose me when no one else did. Thank you for seeing me as more than a checkbook with a pulse." The video ended. Mr. Blackford closed his laptop. "This is," Richard started. "Ironclad," the lawyer finished. "I've been preparing this for 6 months. Every provision has been scrutinized. Every potential challenge has been preempted." Mrs. Whitman was very thorough. "Eliza," Thomas finally spoke, his voice strangled. "You knew?" I shook my head. "I knew she was disappointed in how rarely you all visited. I knew she was hurt by your indifference. But I had no idea about the will." "Liar." Margaret spat. "No one spends that much time with an old woman without expecting something. That's the difference between us," I said quietly. "You can't imagine caring for someone without expectation of reward." I loved Grandma Rose because she was witty, sharp, and had fascinating stories about her life. I visited because I enjoyed her company. "Don't act noble," Patricia sneered. "You're just better at playing the long game." I stood, suddenly exhausted by their venom. "Think whatever you need to think. But while you were calculating her worth, I was calculating her medication schedule. While you were photographing her valuables, I was photographing her smile on good days to show her doctors. That's the difference. If you have any humanity," Richard tried a different approach, "you'll share the inheritance. We're family." "No," I cut him off. "We're relatives. Family shows up. Family cares. Family doesn't treat Sunday dinners like networking opportunities and hospital visits like inconveniences." I turned to Thomas. 8 years. 8 years I've waited for you to stand up to them. To tell them to stop treating me like staff at family gatherings. To defend me when they forgot to set a place for me at holidays. Grandma saw it all, and it broke her heart. "Eliza," he started. "Mr. Blackford," I said, ignoring my husband, "what are the next steps?" "I'll handle the estate transfer. It should be complete within 90 days. The house is yours immediately. Mrs. Whitman wanted you to have somewhere to go." He paused meaningfully. She was very specific about that. I understood. Grandma had known this would end my marriage. As I gathered my purse, Thomas grabbed my arm. "You're not seriously leaving?" "Actually, I am. Your grandmother was right. You're spineless. 8 years of choosing them over me. 8 years of keep the peace, and that's just how they are. Well, now you can have all the peace you want." I walked out, leaving them to their rage and recriminations. Behind me, I heard Patricia screech about theft and lawyers and family loyalty. The loyalty they'd never shown to the woman who'd raised them. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and finally let the tears fall. Not for the money. I'd have traded every penny for more time with Grandma Rose. But for the woman who'd seen me, really seen me, when her own family had rendered us both invisible. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number that turned out to be Mr. Blackford. "Mrs. Whitman left a personal letter for you in the house. She said you'd know where to look." I did know. The poetry book in my hands. The one she'd given me days before she died. Inside the cover, I found an envelope. "My dearest Eliza," the letter began. "By now you've met the wolves and understood why I changed my will. They'll paint you as a villain, but we both know the truth. You gave me something worth more than money. You gave me your time, your genuine care, and your friendship. The money is just a tool. Use it to build the life you deserve, away from those who don't value you. All my love, your chosen Grandma Rose." P.S. The orchids will need water on Thursday. They're yours now. Like everything else I valued, I know they'll thrive in your care. I drove to Grandma's house, my house now, and walked through rooms filled with memories of Saturday afternoons and quiet conversations. The orchids sat in the sunroom, blooming brilliantly, unaware their caretaker had changed. My phone rang. Thomas. I sent it to voicemail and blocked his number. Then his family's numbers, one by one. In the kitchen, I made tea in Grandma's favorite pot and sat in her chair, looking out at the garden we'd planned to renovate together. We'd never get to plant those roses she'd wanted, but I'd plant them anyway. For her. For the woman who'd chosen me as family when her blood relatives had chosen greed. The $12 million would change my life, but not as much as Grandma Rose already had. She'd shown me that real wealth wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in Saturday afternoons spent reading poetry to someone who treasured your presence more than your presence. And that was an inheritance no one could contest.